The world is a wondrous and confusing place. The advancement of science and history and expansion of our knowledge of the Earth gives us a more comprehensive view of our world than ever before. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at mysterious discoveries. Al Bilik and the Philadelphia Experiment. The first person we are taking a look at is Al Bilik. He claims to have been at the very center of the Philadelphia Experiment, which may be one of the biggest conspiracy theories of the 20th century. If you are unfamiliar with the Philadelphia Experiment, it's an event that took place in 1943 when the United States Navy supposedly teleported the USS Eldridge from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia. The ship was made invisible and just appeared at its final location. During the trip from one state to the next, some men were said to have gone missing, whilst others ended up becoming fused to the ship itself. With such an outlandish story, it's difficult to believe such a thing really happened. Al Bilik claims to have been a part of this experiment and has shared many details regarding the events that may or may not have transpired. He provided historical details that could be verified, as well as specifics on the people and places that were involved. Bilik has made further claims that Nikola Tesla was part of the experiment and that two men were sent 40 years into the future and then returned back to the ship. Whilst that alone is crazy to think about, he also believes that these types of experiments date back to 1931 when Tesla had found a way to make objects invisible. Bilik also explains that he and his brother were commissioned in 1983 to travel in between this wormhole to destroy all of the equipment that was on the USS Eldridge. They apparently had to go back to the past to avoid their arrival in 1983 that was causing many problems. When attempting to go back in time, they claim to have accidentally ended up in 2137, spending many weeks in a hospital bed recovering from burns they endured during their teleportation. Bilik then was said to have travelled to 2749, spending 2 years living in that time period. Aside from this travel to the future, Bilik stated that there were many floating cities that could be transported to other parts of the planet. In this world, the population was apparently only 300 million people, and he explained that it was because only few could adapt to this new environment. There were no military or soldiers or any conflict between countries. There were also no government systems in place, and computers had eliminated all physical labor. Money was also not needed in this future world, where people had credits they could use to buy anything they needed, whenever they needed it. Although Bilik's stories about the future certainly sound interesting, he has been unable to truly prove that he was involved in the Philadelphia experiment and that any of what he said is real. Do you think he experienced all these things, or was he making it up? Could he have perhaps experienced these things in his mind, but not in the physical world? Until others come forward to back his beliefs, it will be challenging for him to find those that believe his word as truth. Andrew Basiago claims the US sent him on time travels. Our next mysterious individual is none other than an attorney who claims he was part of a time travel program as a child. Andrew Basiago has been publicly claiming that he participated in Project Pegasus from the ages of 7 to 12. The secret project was said to be run by the government, and it worked on teleportation and time travel. Basiago explains that they were training children among adults to test the mental and physical effects of time travel on both children and adults. He claims that children were at an advantage to adults because they could adapt to the moving between the past, present and future much more easily than adults could. Ever since publicly announcing his so-called experience with time travel, there have been many skeptics. Many physicists, such as Hong Kong's Sheng Wang Du, had stated that time travel is impossible at this time because nothing can move faster than the speed of light. With that being said, there have been some claims that support Basiago's story, such as that of Alfred Webre, who is a lawyer that specializes in exopolitics. Exopolitics consists of the political implications of the extraterrestrial presence on Earth. He strongly believes that time travel has been around for over 40 years, but the Defense Department is hoarding the technology instead of putting it to good use. Webray further explains that this mode of transportation is inexpensive and environmentally friendly, which leaves us questioning why it would not be used if the technology was available. He claims that it was used years ago to send troops to battle, but no one has yet to prove that theory. Returning to the life of Basiago, he apparently experienced 8 different time travel technologies during the program. The main device he used was a teleporter that was based on the drawings found by Nikola Tesla after he passed away in 1943. He describes the machine as 2 grey elliptical booms about 8 feet tall that were separated by 10 feet. In between, there was a shimmering curtain of radiant energy. Radiant energy is a form of energy that Tesla discovered and used to bend the properties of time and space. By jumping through the field of radiant energy, participants would enter a tunnel, and when they felt the tunnel close, they would be at their destination. He said it felt as if they were moving very quickly, or not at all. With so much to say about time travel, Basiago must have had some proof to go along with it. However, he claims that he can be seen in a photograph of Abraham Lincoln in 1863 and speaks to his experience being there. When asked about returning back to present day, he says that if he were a hologram for 15 minutes or less, the hologram would collapse, and he'd find himself back in the present about a minute later. Does this mean that he truly time-travelled, or was it all a figment of his imagination? With apparently about 100 people working on this secret project, no one else has yet to step forward and confirm what Basiago is saying to be true. It appears as if we may never know the truth, but maybe one day that will change. The disappearance of Rosalind Balingal. Rosalind Balingal was born in 1948 in northern Rhodesia to British parents, but her family moved to live in South Africa, living for a short time in Johannesburg. By 1968, Rosalind was studying speech and drama at the University of Cape Town. In August 1969, she was staying with 2 friends in Nisa Forest when she walked off and never returned. She was known to be a hippie and allegedly the high priestess in a group that referred to themselves as the Cosmic Butterfly. Her disappearance sparked a 2-week-long search, which proved to be fruitless, although it did bring up some other interesting information. There was an unidentified body discovered in the search, police files went missing, and there have since been some unconfirmed sightings of Rosalind around the place where she used to live, in the Devotterkant area of Cape Town. Albert Grundling of the Department of History at Stellenbosch University said the following: "She was a marginal figure on the fringes of society, yet as an observer she also provided a lens through which wider developments could be observed." Albert became aware of Rosalind's story after a guide had mentioned her to him and his wife while touring the Nisa Forest. He then saw a picture of her from the Scope magazine back at the Barrydale Hotel. This piqued his curiosity, and he began to conduct his own research. He travelled to the local library and began to dig through old documents relating to the case. In the 1980s, the police officially declared Rosalind dead, and the search was called off. One theory is that she may have taken her own life. Grundling's research led him on a path to discover that Rosalind was a striking figure physically, but described as being insecure, depressed, and neurotic, and obsessed with the end of the world. Exactly what happened to Rosalind still remains a mystery, but her case still continues to intrigue researchers to this day. Raised by monkeys. In this part, we'll be learning about the infamous tale of Marina Chapman, the woman who was raised by a group of capuchin monkeys. Due to the nature of the story, not much is known about Mrs. Chapman. Born in Colombia around the year 1950, Marina Chapman had a childhood very different to most people. According to Chapman's own testimony, at a very young age, she was mysteriously taken from her village, which she was too young to know the name of, before being abandoned for an unknown reason in the jungle of Colombia. Being a small, vulnerable child, Chapman states that she then spent the next number of years in the company of a colony of capuchin monkeys, a small species of monkey found all across Central and South America. The monkeys apparently took a liking to Marina, as she stated that they looked after her and managed to lead her to safety for what she estimates was a total of 5 years spent in the jungle. Eventually, Marina was found by a group of hunters in the Colombian jungle and was once again brought back into civilization. Again, according to Chapman, at this point she was unable to speak any human language, and she fell into a series of problems as she re-entered human society. Marina claims that she was eventually sold and became homeless and lived on the street, and at one point, Marina states she was taken in by a mafia family as a slave. But Marina Chapman's life took a fortunate turn for the better as she got older. Neighbor and friend Maruja, her daughter Maria, adopted the young girl when she was roughly 14 years old. Marina had finally become part of a family. The newly formed family unit, with connections to the city of Bradford in the UK, moved over to the green and pleasant land in 1977. Once there, Chapman became a nanny and has lived in Bradford since 1983. Whilst this is an amazing tale, there's still some ambiguity about Marina's story. Since there is nobody to verify the woman's tale, we have no concrete way of proving whether what she says is true or false. Regardless, the story of a young girl rescued by a family of small monkeys has proven to be so fascinating that National Geographic produced a documentary film about Maria named Woman Raised by Monkeys in 2013. Gone without a trace, the USS Capelin. The USS Capelin was part of the Balingal class of submarines and named after a tiny smelt fish found in the cold North Pacific, Atlantic, and Arctic Oceans. It was first launched in January 1943 and immediately received a Navy commission by June. It quickly set sail on its first mission in September of that same year. The submarine travelled from Connecticut to Brisbane, Australia, to conduct patrols in the surrounding waters and prevent Japanese attacks. On its very first war patrol, the Capelin managed to sink a massive Japanese cargo ship out in the seas surrounding Indonesia, earning the crew high praise for their successful attack. At the beginning of November, the submarine returned to Darwin, Australia, for an overhaul. It required some corrections because there were slight defects in the radar and hatch mechanisms, and certain parts were making too much noise. Within a week, the Capelin was back out in the water and set off for its second patrol. This time, the officers monitored the trade routes through the seas surrounding Indonesia and the Philippines. Their task was to observe, engage if necessary, and return during the cover of night on the 6th of December. While they were out at sea, they came within sight of another American submarine, the USS Bonefish. Unaware that it was a friendly vessel, the Capelin dove to escape, so the commander quickly sent a sonar message relaying his identity. The Capelin acknowledged the notice and identification, but nothing further. It continued with its dive and patrol mission. That interaction was the last known contact of the submarine Capelin. Investigators discovered the only attack reported in the area was in Japanese records by one of their mine layer vessels near Indonesia. The report specifically stated that the submarine attack produced many black oil and water columns filled with wood splinters. Researchers and the Navy only later discovered that the Japanese had placed minefields in the areas that the Capelin had been monitoring. They suspect that a mine explosion had destroyed the submarine. The submarine and her crew received a battle star for their service because, despite having been in commission for only half a year and one patrol, they managed to sink over 3,000 tons of enemy shipping. There has been no search for the wreckage and no trace of the submarine or its crew, so the Navy listed the USS Capelin as lost with unknown cause. But what do you make of these strange goings-on? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.